Our next speaker, Eric Becker, is kind of like a cousin now. He's with the Kansas Turnpike Authority, and we've kind of joint ventured to become better partners. And with that, he's the director of the road operations. He's got 13 years of being in charge of maintenance on the Kansas Turnpike. I'd like you to welcome him.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for the opportunity to tell you kind of what we're doing as far as our polymer program on the Turnpike. Who we are 236 miles of interstate highway. We run on I-70 between Topeka and Kansas City, I-335 between Topeka to Emporia, and then I-35 down south. We've been part of the Kansas Turnpike's been around for over 60 years now, so it was prior to the interstate highway system. So if anybody was wondering about that, that's how that came about. We have about 1,000 lane miles, 22 toll plazas, 349 bridges. We operate on tax dollars only. So as the federal government up here, as the feds were talking about stuff, we kind of have a luxury of, if we have a big project, we can forecast for it, put replacement money into it, and we can get there. So I feel for you. Wouldn't want to trade with you, but I feel for you. I'd like to thank Randy for driving probably the Turnpike from Oklahoma City to Lawrence an awful lot. I want to go ahead and throw that out. I hope you're a good K-Tag customer. Maybe I'll get you a K-Tag cup before we're done. This presentation is put together with some pictures and videos and stuff, and what we do. We kind of got into the polymer program for our bridges, and it started in 2007. You know, we were working with Dave Meggers with KDOT and a lot of other people, and at that time we realized we had some bridges that a lot of our bridges all have the same birthday. And we were trying to do what we could do to keep them together, or to prolong to where we weren't having to do them all at the same time. So we did the first bridge in 2007 here, and these are a couple pictures where we mixed part A and a part B for epoxy, put it in 5-gallon buckets, spread out the chicken feed on top, and we did it all kind of like that. And when we did it, we realized that there were some qualities there that we liked. We knew what we was doing. We was covering up the bridge. We were doing things right. But we thought we could do it a little bit smarter. So it made us kind of look internally, and we started looking around. And so we kind of developed our own research and development program. And we found an old bead pot that we had off of our old paint truck. We decided to hook a compressor up to it, and we were going to pump the rock out to save some labor. So when winter rolled around, we kind of jumped on that project and kind of came up with our first prototype, if you will, and we called it the Black Pearl, after Johnny Depp. Well, so we kind of got it going. We were doing pretty good, and I'll get you to the numbers and stuff that we were doing. But there got to be a time issue with our bead pot. We'd fill it full of rock. We'd be halfway across the deck, and it would take us just as long to fill the bead pot back up. So we said, well, let's go back to the drawing board. We got another winter coming up. So we decided to look at it a little bit more. And at that time, we were also mixing with 5-gallon buckets. So we decided to get to the 250-gallon totes. And we started to realize that we were going to get into this polymer, and it was going to be part of our toolbox, if you will. We went out and bought a shot blaster, a VW shot blaster, and we were into the surface prep as well. The way it works out at the Turnpike is we have one person that's kind of in charge of our polymer program, and I'll introduce him here in a little bit. And he just goes from area to area and grabs essential crew as he's in that area. So our polymer program is one person, and he wears many hats. So it isn't that this is his whole job. So just so you know, it isn't a crew that goes out and does it all the time. So our year-end numbers, when we got to 2007, we did those 2 bridges first. 2008, we got into it, we did 14. And you can see we kind of progressed and moved around a little bit. The first few years of doing it, we weren't really covering up ideal candidates. You know, we knew we were going into some bridge decks that, man, if we could just prolong it another 4 or 5 years or put a cover over it and that type of stuff. Many of our 349 bridges are remotely overhead. So they're overhead and they're on remote areas. So a lot of times it's a gravel road coming to it, the bridge deck's in great shape. You know, we just wanted to try to cover it up to where we wouldn't have to replace it. Extremely low ADT on some of them. We also applied it to some of our mainline bridges that we knew we were going to be replacing in 10 years. Just as long as we can keep, if we can cover it up, it might mean that we might not have to go out there and be jackhammering holes in it and patching and fixing stuff. We also utilized it as for snow removal. You know, a first response bridge is what we call it in our organization. Is when frost starts hitting hard, we know the first bridge to go out on, because that's the one that's going to develop the frost before anything else, before the first round of snow hits, and they're the ones that always give us the indicator on when we're bringing people out. And one of the ones we did at first was in 2008, out in the middle of Flint Hills. We have a bridge that goes over a railroad. So it goes up and over the railroad. Every winter we'd have 2 or 3 rail damage, where cars would hit that bridge because of the frost and being out in the middle of nowhere. They'd hit the rail, so we was fixing the rail 2 or 3 times every winter. We went out in 2008, covered it, and we haven't had a hit yet since we covered it. So it seals it. We can put some brine on it, and it'll help keep a lot of people safe. So there's a lot of different uses to this that we've used in-house. I know that there's a lot of properties, and the engineering want to get into, you know, how long you can make it last, but we really kind of look at this as a maintenance tool, is how we are looking at it. Our overlay trend, I put that in there. That's how many square foot we're doing. In 2011, the first few years, we were kind of utilizing a single coat on some of our remote locations. We weren't doing a double coat like what the spec is for the state of Kansas. We weren't necessarily getting into that, but at the end of the day, we were the owners. So if we see a candidate, we want to go out and do something and we want to put a single coat, we go ahead and do a single coat. We do double coats on all of our mainline bridges now, and the good candidates, the ideal candidates. Our price trend, you can see our cost for doing it is pretty efficient. And this is all of our labor involved in it and everything, because we were doing it in-house. And I'll get to kind of how we get there in the next couple slides. But as you can see, when we went to the second coat, in 2010 to 11, we went from $69 to $1.82. That second coat, even though it's a second coat, you're putting a lot more polymer out there. And I know the polymer manufacturers, they like you to tell you need that second coat, and I argue with them all the time, tell them you don't always need it. So that's kind of our price trend. This year, we're still in the middle of the fiscal year, so it isn't that we're getting that much better for 2015. I just didn't pull it out. Our labor, in 2008, we were utilizing a 10-person crew to go out and do some bridge decks. 2013, we were at 6, and then most recently, we do it with 5 people. And we can't get much less than that, because that's what you need for the equipment and to put up a lane closure. And that's how efficient we've got at doing this. This year, we also had a river bridge in Lawrence, the Kansas River Bridge, that we went ahead and contracted out, because I didn't want to spend my entire budget that I set aside for our polymer program just for the one bridge. So we went ahead and budgeted it out, and it came in at $29.88 a yard, $332 a square foot. And then in-house right now, we're at about $244 a square foot. That's all apples to apples. And even though it's apples to apples, I like to say I'm paying my guys even if they aren't working on that bridge. So where a contractor, my 244 actually probably is going to be a little bit less than that because I'm paying them to either mow the side of the road or be out on the bridge. So I'm going to pay them anyway. This is how we got there to the 244 an hour. What this is our development that we developed into to where we got rid of the old bead pot. We take the flint rock, we put it in a clean dump truck, tandem axle, and we utilize a Venturi system that has a positive displacement to blow the rock out onto the polymer. As you can see in the picture to the left, you can actually see the little hopper that we built. We built a special tailgate. It's loaded into a clean, dry tandem dump truck that has that special tailgate. We have an agitator on the back of the dump truck that'll help consistently bring the rock out of the truck. It's gravity fed into the hopper, and it takes it out the back of the trailer where we have 2 rock hoses that are actually, you'll see in here in a second, that comes out of the back of the truck. We can adjust how much we put out. Currently we do about 120 to 150 pounds a minute, and we can adjust that. We can tweak it whichever way we want to tweak it. Here's a video of the hopper, and if this gets anybody sick, I apologize. And I'll get into a little bit more of that here. This is the back of the trailer. This is the polymer part. What we do is we have Jake, the gentleman that we have that has kind of designed this thing, worked with spray equipment out of Wichita. And we realized that, running them buckets, 2 buckets, 5-gallon buckets, mixing it for 3 minutes, it seemed like it was really slow. We wanted to figure things out better, so Jake got a hold of a couple of them guys and got to working with them, and we came up with basically a Graco pump that has a mixed tube that mixes it to the specifications that we need, and it'll pump out of a hand pump at 5 gallons a minute. So that got rid of a couple people, because we can do it now by standing at the back with just a wand. So that got rid of a couple people. So that helped in the labor part. The boom on these pictures is retracted. The boom it slides out, and you'll see here in a little bit. But it slides out and it holds the 2 rock tubes. There's another picture of the back of the pump. Again, it pumps out at 5 gallons a minute. We use mineral spirits to flush the system after we're done. Other tidbits is, as the weather gets closer, we really monitor, or gets colder, we monitor all the temperatures on all these, and we have heat blankets and pumps, or heat blankets and stuff to keep the temperature of the part A and part B at the right temp. Here's a little video that will show how we start a bridge. What we do is we have about polymer 15 foot out, and we stay ahead of the rock. So I'll show you this, and you can see where it's kicking out. So he's just starting the polymer here, and then we have the guy behind him that's just running the squeegee. So what we do is we get 15 feet out, and then we'll start it with the rock to where you're always running the polymer guy, the squeegee guy, and the rock guy. We work at about 5,000 square foot an hour. We've had quite a few contractors, I know there's some around, we've had quite a few contractors come out and sit on bridges with us. We don't feel like we own any of the information. If it helps keep a lower cost for anybody, we're fine with that. So this is going to show the rock starting, and you're going to see the fastest bridge coating you've ever seen right here. He's moving quick. And they do drive fast on the Turnpike, just so you know. Bridge deck done in 24 seconds. The guy running the rock hose, he does wear some special cleats that we've made. It's just a piece of aluminum that we duct tape the bottom of his foot. It's got some bolts in it. Keeps him up out of the polymer. So we have that, and then he's covered with dust booties. You know, another thing that we've learned over the many years of doing this is the safety aspect of it, and just the amount of stuff that we used to buy all the time to take care of stuff. We've gotten so much cleaner and better and smarter with it. Whoops. Benefits, some of the benefits and the lessons learned. You know, we have the flexibility to just go out and do things, to go right at different bridges, different things all the time. We don't really have a contract set up to where we have to go get done with stuff. We have that flexibility to, if that bridge needs it and we want to do that bridge too, or this lane needs it, we get to go do it. We set their own schedule. We're the owners, so sometimes that helps a lot with, well, no, we're going to stay out here and we're going to do it a little bit later. We really utilize the traction coat for winter application. You know, sometimes we'll put it on a bridge deck and we aren't really trying to preserve the deck, we're trying to do it for traction. And then we can put it on some older decks that really aren't, as I said before, they aren't good candidates for probably a polymer. But if we can do it, and we know we're going to get some failures, but we're doing it, and even though we might have a failure or two, there's other spots that it's taken care of. We did, you know, some of the lessons learned, there is some hazmat and air quality issues that we've gotten into with our safety guy, and you know, that's something that we're working through and we're learning every day. The biggest key to a lot of that is we apply a lot of field judgment out there. You know, it isn't a specification sheet that we're sitting here and we're looking at and we're flipping to a certain page. You know, we can use the field judgment of, hey, if we need to go a little bit thicker here, we can do it. If we need a little bit more rock here, we can do it. We need a little less, we can do it. From an oversight, from a budgeting point, from my point, I see this as integral as essential as just crack sealing on our asphalt. So I set money aside every year for this, and I look at it just like crack sealing. It's something that I feel like we need to do. We got 350 bridges. If we can keep knocking them off 20 in a year, we'll get there one of these days. Other uses. This section here, we went in, we kind of made a lane more or less. We had a little bit of asphalt that got out of hand from the contractor and had a big turn area that was causing some side issues. And at the time, we didn't necessarily want to go in and tear out all the asphalt that was already there. So we went ahead and kind of built it like this, and it works. Solved a lot of the side issues. We didn't have to tear out a bunch of asphalt. We didn't have to tear out a bunch of stuff, and it really works. So that's one issue. Other issues is this is our headquarters. Those front steps always got really cold, or in the winter we had somebody slip and fall. We went ahead and put some polymer on that. You'd be surprised what that did. It helped an awful lot. Another thing that I didn't take a picture of is, you know, we also have toll collectors out there, and around the bridge, around their toll booths, we've done some spots to where they're slipping and falling and when it gets cold and icy. So we've utilized it in a lot of different models and a lot of different areas for stuff that they probably didn't know was intended for. I've given you just a quick glimpse of our program, but the one thing that I really want to do is I want to get Jake to stand up. The biggest thing about our whole program is, and that's Jake Jackson, he's in charge of the of our Polymer program. If you guys have any questions, he's the guy to ask. You know, the biggest key to any of this is right there. He took this program when we started, and we were running with 10 people, and he says, hey, Eric, we can make it better. Hey, we can do this. He has no problem asking for more equipment and more money. And he's a little guy, so he isn't intimidating when he comes in either. But that's the reason why that we're successful with this program, is the trust that you put in some of the people that you might not know you want to trust. Give them the latitude and longitude. If there's any state agencies out here that are looking at maybe wanting to do something like this, or the key is the people. You know, you got great people that work for you. I got great people that work for me. Give them some room, you know, and they'll do things that you're proud of. You know, you got some great employees out there, and they want to get it done. And he's a true definition of that. So that's kind of, maybe I can get you back on time. So that's all I got. And if anybody has any questions, we'll be around, and just holler.
Thank you.